Hello and good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Nancy Jansen, and I'm your expert relationship love coach. And I'm very thrilled to be with you this afternoon. And I have two guests with me, and we're going to be talking about staying connected and staying emotionally connected. And I just wanted to explain to you that this is an important core value, communication. And communication is one of the top 5 reasons that people get divorced. And, divorce is so common in first marriages, and it's over 50%. And some of the data says it's as high as 70%. And this is an engaged couple, and I don't want to shake their confidence in their marriage in any way, shape, or form. And second marriage it's well over 60%. And this is a beautiful, beautiful couple in love. And what they're going to do today is discuss some important factors, and they're actually going to project well into their marriage of 5 years, 20 years, and 40 years. And I've asked them to do a little mental thinking about this interview, and it's going to be quite fun to be with them. They're a fun, loving couple, and I just wanted to introduce them. But before I do, I wanted to remind you about the beautiful love story book that I've written, and it's just released in August of this year, and it's called Bride Doll. And it's a wonderful love story, and it cites, the resilience and the persistence and the courage of the main character in her love journey, and how she found and triumphed in true love. So hopefully you'll consider it, and it's available on at Amazon. It's in an Audible book format as well as an ebook, and it's also available in your favorite bookstores, Barnes and Noble in the US, and Chapters and Indigo in Canada, and it's globally in your favorite bookstore. So I'm going to scooch over, and then I'm going to go off screen, but you'll still be able to hear me so that you can get a better view of the guests. And then I'm going to introduce them and ask a few questions. Okay. So I'm going to just scoot over this way. Okay. And then you can get closer. So here's our lovely couple. And here you have Sarah Letitia Jansen and Zach Emery.
Hi.
Hi. So they are engaged and they plan to get married. Hopefully the COVID will soon be over here in Canada, but we can't predict exactly how it's going to go. And their plans for marriage are sometime in 2023. But Sarah, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to at this point in your life, and then we'll go to Zach.
Sure, yeah. So I am a PhD candidate at the Norman Patterson School of International Affairs, studying international affairs. So finishing up my dissertation hopefully this year, and then moving on to the job market.
And can maybe you speak a little bit louder so the microphone can pick up on your next question. And Zach, if you could.
Yeah, I am a professional photographer based in Ottawa. I've been running my own business part-time for the last 4 years or so, and full-time since the start of this year. And yeah.
Great. So could you tell us how you met?
Yeah, we were in the same dance class together, but we didn't really... we took note of each other, but I don't think we ever really communicated much or exchanged any information. So once the class ended, I kind of lost track of her until in my capacity as a photographer, I saw Sarah at an event that I was working at where she was hanging out with a friend of mine. So I kind of saw this opportunity of like, oh, I can go say hi to my friend, and in doing so, introduce myself to Sarah. I thought that was very clever at the time.
Yeah.
And would you like to add to that?
No, yeah. I think I remembered him from class, and because he's very active and he's a local events photographer. So because he's very active in the community and sort of community events, I'd seen him on Facebook, but I was like, it's very stalkerish to just add this person on Facebook after only having like been in the same class together, but not really having communicated. So I didn't. But then after we met at the event, then
Little did you know, I would have been thrilled if you had, but
then I
you
added,
couldn't have known that at the time.
No, so then I added him on Facebook. Because I felt like we'd actually had a face-to-face conversation. And then a couple of weeks later, I started noticing that there was a lot of content that I was liking, and it was all the same person who was posting that content. And it was this one.
Yeah.
And he was busy the first time I asked him
Yeah,
to
I was at
go-
work and you
yeah.
asked me if I wanted to go out
and get a drink.
Yeah.
But then we reconnected at that same friend who was at the table that night. When we reconnected, she had a party.
She played matchmaker for a while trying to get us together because she knew that I liked Sarah and she knew that Sarah liked me, but neither of us knew, and she wasn't really forthcoming about like giving that away. She was really just trying to edge us towards like figuring it out on her own and like, you know, like, come on guys, put it together.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we like really truly reconnected at that party at her place. So
Yeah.
shout out to Katie.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I just wanted to point out that Sarah is a member of the Facebook group Nurturing Love Relationships, and we're just going to open up the chat. So if you have any questions, just please ask away, and we'll be watching the chat line, and we will answer any questions, or Sarah or Zach will answer the questions, and you might want to get the male perspective. So go ahead. All right. So, you know, how are you feeling that, you know, going into marriage and knowing that the first time marriages are at such a high rate, and, you know, being several years senior and having, you know, my own experience of marriage, you know, I was really gobsmacked. I'll have to tell you that when, you know, I discovered my husband had an affair, and I went into my marriage, you know, really with the belief that marriage was forever. And I truly loved my husband. And, you know, I had 2 children. It took me a long time to recover from that. So, just being part of that statistic. And then I felt a lot of shame that I was a divorcee, and no one in my family, like from generations, no one had ever, you know, your husband died. That was the only way that you became without a spouse. So I felt a lot of shame about it. Now, I didn't do anything to cause that. So even thinking about it gets me emotional again. But just knowing that statistic, how do you feel about that, Zach?
I feel like, you know, if you look kind of historically at the way that things have been for a very long time, I mean, it had been many generations where it was not socially acceptable to divorce unless under extreme circumstances, and even then you would often face a lot of backlash. And additionally, I think, you know, I don't know what it is for Canada, but I think in the United States, like a woman couldn't own a checking account until like 1970s, sometime like that. You know, I think there was a certain sense of like this expectation to get married as quickly as you could, and also this expectation that like once you were in it, you could never really feasibly leave. That I think unfortunately caused a lot of women to stay in relationships that were not good for them. With divorce becoming slowly more acceptable, I think that kind of led to those divorce rates skyrocketing. But I think we might see that turn around in the other direction soon, as I think like we're coming into a time period right now where it's a lot more common for people to get married later in life. So I think people are typically they're putting a lot more thought into what they want with their life before they get married, and they're putting a lot more thought, I think, into who they marry. And that's not to say that every single marriage is going to suddenly be perfect because of that. There's still going to be problems in relationships that are sometimes they're reconciliable and sometimes they're not. But I think it is only a good thing that like a lot of people are choosing to marry later in life when they know who they are and they know what they want out of life and they know what they want in a partner.
Fabulous. Thank you. I can see why you're attracted to this man.
Yeah, he's great.
He is great. What do you have to say about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, Zach said everything so eloquently. So what do I have to add to that? No, I think that it's true. We are, I guess, part of that statistic of people getting married for the first time later in life. We're both in our 30s. And I mean, my mom was married a lot younger than that. She already had me and my sister by the time she was my age. And coming into it with career paths that are a little bit more established on both sides, and being a little bit more mature as a person and being able to like see those goals that we both have that maybe if we were 19 or 20, it's harder to like visualize like 10 years into the future.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, when we were out yesterday, we had a little chat about projecting into the future of marriage, and when we were out shopping, we saw that little girl's dress, and we said, "Oh my gosh, how cute that was!" And it brought me back memories actually of my little girls, and especially my older daughter, and she had a little dress like that, and I was reflecting, "Oh my gosh, I love that little dress."
Yeah.
And actually, I made my daughter a little dress like that. But it also reminded me, as we're having this conversation, how children, and actually I think I said the same thing to you, how children really change the dynamics of a marriage, and that how two people have to be so aligned in their core values. And this is how I do my relationship coaching. And this is how I am with my partner, who is my husband. We were older when we met, that our core values are so aligned, and that's why we are so successful as a couple. But in terms of parenting, if you aren't aligned with your core values, then it makes the union so hard. And I'll go back to my first marriage. We were not aligned, and this is probably why the moving away from the commitment happened, in that he wasn't a partner in parenting, and he was out of the home, out of the emotional connection. And a typical day would look like, okay, he's showering, he's then walking the dog for 45 minutes, and he's picking up the lunch that I made for him, and he's gone to work. In the meantime, I'm getting the children ready, getting myself ready for work, getting the children to daycare, and then going to work in a career that's very busy as a healthcare professional, picking the children up from daycare, coming home to make dinner that he's going to eat, and then he's busy doing what he wants to do. So there was no partnering in parenting.
Yep.
So what's your response to that? And I'll start with you, Sarah.
Well, I'm not a parent currently, so I don't have insight. This is only sort of forward looking, but I think that's a decision to have children. That's a joint decision. And then figuring out how that is going to change both of your lifestyles, and become a part of your life together is important. And
Mhm.
we don't have a kid, we have a dog. So we have a fur baby, and yeah, I think one of the things that we did as a new-ish couple is we did dog training classes
We did,
together. And we, in some beautiful locations, like Lansdowne Park was one of those locations. But I think that was a really good like family bonding moment because we were all sort of learning and growing together. So I guess sort of extrapolating from that, you want to sort of have things that everyone can do together, and to like learn and grow together, to like build a foundation.
I think I have, always approached the question of having children one day with like a fairly clear vision of what I want for my children. There are a lot of things about my own life growing up and my own childhood that I really wish I could see changed. And, I think every time that we've talked about the possibility of having children one day, I've found that even if like you're not necessarily coming from like the same reasoning, like you do have a lot of the same values that I do, and that's kind of been a bit of our guiding star on a lot of things. I mean, we are two very different people, but we really try to approach a lot of things in a way where we see those differences as being a strength and not a weakness, because we're able to bring different ways of thinking to a lot of things, and we do approach a lot of things as a team that we don't always get it right, but on those days when we do get it right, our differences work in harmony with each other to really produce a lot of really spectacular results. And if the time is ever right for children, I would hope that we're able to do that again in the same way that we have in the past.
Wonderful. Okay, so many women say to me in working with love relationships and my one-on-one clients that communication with their significant other, their partner or their husband or their same-sex partner falls apart over time, and they feel a real disconnect, and they wonder if they should separate or divorce, and they don't know how to reconnect. And they come to me and ask for help. So communication is in the top 5 reasons why people divorce, separate, or divorce. Mm-hmm. So Zach, I'm going to ask you the question.
Yeah.
How in your relationship do you stay connected now?
That's a good question. That's a good question because I think, I did say just a moment ago that Sarah and I are very different, and that includes like also how we like to communicate and, when we like to communicate. And, there are sometimes sort of difficulties or like a learning curve in terms of just trying to make sure that we're on the same page about things. But, this is also something where I feel like, both because we are a little bit older and we know ourselves a little bit better, and just because like we put the work in, like we are slowly with time sort of finding ways to get around those challenges and ways to sort of keep lines of communication open, and finding not necessarily compromises so much as like solutions that work for both of us just as well. There was something where we were having a lot of difficulty with, I think, communicating what our sort of like day-to-day planning and scheduling looked like, because we both kind of approached it from different angles. I like to approach it in terms of like thinking about what I had accomplished that day, and she liked to approach it in terms of like what I look forward to accomplishing the next, what she looks forward to accomplishing the next day. But we kind of created a solution that addresses both styles of it and kind of also prompts each of us to also sort of focus on the thing that we normally ignore, which has been very beneficial. Where we have like this notebook that we fill out. We try and do it every night before bed, but if not, we do it in the morning the next day. Where every day, we write out what like our most important tasks that we need to complete or at least work on the next day are. But also we go and we cross off everything that we did get done. So we always can kind of check in with each other about like, what is important? What is it that you feel is very important that you accomplish tomorrow? But also here's a reminder of like, here's all the things you accomplished today, just in case you forgot and you can't always see the forest for the trees. So little things like that kind of address both my needs individually and her needs individually have been kind of, I think, a big part of how we make that happen.
That's great. So Sarah, I'm a very concrete kind of thinker, a visual thinker. I'm going to say visual. So can you tell us what was written down last Friday? So give us an example of a day. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, an example of a day. So I think it sort of depends. There are tasks that are sort of weekly reoccurring. So for instance, I don't know, I'll pick Sunday because Sunday is when I usually water the plants. I have an extensive indoor garden. It's something that I love. So Sunday is plant watering day, but then we were also getting ready to make this trip. So there were packing elements that needed to happen, as well as work commitments that we both had. And I think that for me, the benefit of doing it before really starting the day, so either at night or in the morning before we fully start the day, is that we can sort of see what the focus of the other person is that day. And sometimes it helps to align, like there are certain tasks, like you probably want to do laundry before you want to pack stuff. Yeah. So, sort of being able to align those tasks. And if he really feels like, oh, I'm going to do laundry tomorrow, then it's like, great. Then maybe I'll, pack some of that stuff as soon as it's clean. And by communicating what those goals are instead of just pursuing them in isolation, then we can sort of align that scheduling a little bit better. And then I'm really bad as well at like seeing that I've made progress on things, especially tasks that are very circular. So like dishes or watering plants, like laundry, these things need to happen all the time. So it's hard to say like, oh, I accomplished something because it's there again tomorrow. So for me, being able to like cross it off is really important, to be like, no, I accomplished something, even if it's going to come back around again.
If I can just briefly add to that, like I think one of our like biggest ongoing challenges has just kind of been trying to make sure that our schedules align. I am to a certain extent a solitary person, but like, I want us to have like enough time where we are spending time either working on things together or relaxing together, that, we feel that we're keeping, in touch with each other emotionally. And I think before this system, I was very apt to just sort of improvise my schedule on the fly, somewhat irresponsibly. And that did make it very hard for us to kind of like plan when our time with each other would be. And I think, the fact that it's kind of forced me to sort of be a little bit more decisive in advance and a little firmer with, how I use my time. Not to say I'm not still sometimes a little bit of a mess, but I think it really does make it a lot easier for us to like, when we're looking at the day, like to make sure that we carve out time where we can to just, be a couple.
That is really important to keep that going. So where I want to take this a little bit deeper. So the word, if you could think of the word intimacy,
Mhm.
and generally when people hear the word intimacy, they think of sexual, sensual.
Mhm.
And that is very important for a couple, no matter what the age, and I emphasize that because it is no matter what the age.
Yeah.
But I want to give you a different breakdown of intimacy, and I will pronounce it as into me see.
Okay.
And so that will emphasize the communication.
Mhm.
Okay. So into me see.
Mhm.
So this is where women come to me and say that's where the communication is breaking down or gone
Mhm.
in their marriage. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years.
Mhm.
There's no longer a connection.
Right.
We no longer connect.
Mhm.
So into me see. So Sarah, if you think of your marriage 10 years from now, and your career, and you're in somewhere in Africa, as we know your career might take you, and Zach, you're on a photography shoot,
Yeah.
and you're somewhere in Australia,
Mhm.
which you could very well be.
I could very well be.
Yeah.
And your children are in Halifax
The grandparents.
with their grandparents, which could very well be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got two children, and they're very busy, and grandma is not very happy at the moment.
Keeping up with them.
And she loves them dearly, but just today was a bad day.
Mhm.
And you're not having a great day, and your clients are just keeping you way too busy, Zach. So everybody's a little bit frazzled
Yeah.
on this day. And now I'm going to give you the word into me see.
Okay.
And you've got a Zoom call with your husband.
Okay.
How are you handling that?
I mean, so I guess when you break down intimacy that way and into me see, to me, that speaks to like seeing things from the other person's perspective and understanding and communicating to understand sort of what they're feeling and experiencing. And obviously that has to be mutual. But yeah, I think, that's sort of where you would want to direct that call, is both like being heard for what you're feeling and experiencing and also hearing the other person.
I think a really important thing, and this is something that I think, we really strive for right now, and I hope that we still are in 10 years, is that like, I don't know, I feel like when I vent to you or you vent to me, there is that element of like trying to see the situation through the other person's eyes, but there's also that equally important is a sort of like trying to see a bigger picture that they might be too close to see, where you might see potential solutions that they don't, or even just see, like, hey, I think you need to take a step back from this, and like maybe a solution will become more apparent with time. I think it's equal parts like understanding, but also like helping with like that sort of like getting creative about solutions. And yeah, I think that's something that we really strive for right now. And, I can't imagine it being any different down the road as we, because the more time that we spend together, the more we understand each other and the more that we feel that we're able to communicate with each other.
So what I would suggest, and knowing knowing love as well as I do, because I've had so much life experience with it, and being an expert in love, what I would suggest and add to that, because you've explained it beautifully, but having so much experience, as I said, and want to reinforce that, is when a couple is apart and when to always reconnect with love, and you both would need reassurance with each other that you truly, really love it. You really love your partner. To make that, even though it's on a Zoom call, to make that eye contact, and even, as if your fingers are touching the screen, to try and even make that physical contact. Sarah, I really, really love you. She needs to hear that, and to feel your heartbeat. That has to, it has to happen, because that's the glue, that's the mortar of your life. And if I could share that with you, that is what's going to keep the thrive of your love life forever. And not to forget that. And that's the wisdom.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
But you guys have been wonderful.
Oh,
Thanks.
Yeah. So, even, you see now, like, just even getting married into, the relationship you have, I can see is absolutely beautiful. And, the marriage is in 23, and it seems like a bit of time ahead, and you're going to have your PhD in the springtime.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. And Zach, your career is busting forward, and I'm really thrilled about that. And we're going to see each other again in a month in Halifax.
Not even.
Not even.
A few weeks.
Yeah.
yeah.
Time is zipping by
Flying
so
by.
fast.
Oh, yeah.
And, in reflection back, being married 20 years zips by so fast, and 40 years zips by, and really, truly having that love connection, making that ritual. And, if you could consider me a sage of love, really, looking into your partner's eyes every day and just confirming that love is going to be a beautiful thing to hold on to, because life gets very, very busy. And, all this 50% of people, that's a fact. It doesn't lie. And, you can easily be, and both of your careers are going to involve a lot of travel. And it's easily, you're going to be possibly a week away easily. And there's going to be some loneliness involved in those weeks away. And so it's going to be really important to share that love every day, even from afar. Or even on a daily basis, to do that quick kiss goodbye,
Yeah.
And to make that meaningful every day. If I could provide that little bit of wisdom, love wisdom, it's so important to put that real hug in there. And know that, because I've had that experience, and that total blow up or gobsmack of, and I really know that's not going to happen to you, but not to take it for granted, because the love is so divine. Really, love is divine. And love, I believe that everyone has a shelf life. Life is not infinite. Life is not forever. And what is the most important thing is love. And if we truly cherish, at the end of the day, how much love have we had and how much love have we given? That's the only thing that's really important. So that's my bit of wisdom for the day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for doing this interview. And I hope that everyone's enjoyed this interview today. And we'll end with that.
Great.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
everyone.
everyone. Okay. And we'll just end here. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.